I moisturized my lips for this.
That's great. That's going to be on the outtakes. Okay, guys, welcome back to the next episode of the vlog. Vlog, is that what we're going to call it? A vlog? On property buying and starting kind of your dream home. So last episode, we basically covered going to Michigan and what our experience was like there, looking at properties, kind of what our takeaway was. Pandemic started, and so we kind of got cooped up in the house to look at this from a big picture. Is we didn't want to like walk away from Michigan and say, okay, we're going to buy this property. So like, what else can we do? Let's open our aperture a little bit and say, if everything's on the table, let's look across the United States and see what else we could get. So that was kind of like our big takeaway from going to Michigan. So where did we start from there? So we started from 50 states, really 51 because we counted in DC, and we created a criteria of analysis. So Randy is extremely analytical. I like to make spreadsheets. So it was like the perfect storm of like, let's seriously nerd out on figuring out where we wanted our forever home to be. Because this is like a huge step for us. Since we were newly married, since we still are early in our careers, you can't take something like this lightly. So we're going to share with you all the criteria that we used. It's going to be different for everybody. But how do we go from like anywhere in the United States is on the table to let's look at like 7 or 11 different states. And then within that, 8 or 9 different cities. Mm-hmm. Like that's crazy to think about in the scale of the United States. So how we started was basically we put all 51 states down, or 50 states in DC down, and we ruled out some of the states that we knew we didn't want to retire to because we've been there before. Like we lived in Maryland, we didn't want to retire to Maryland. I'm from Ohio, didn't want to retire to Ohio. Randy's from Texas, she didn't want to retire to Texas.
It's hot.
Yeah, so yes, it's hot, and also, you know, nobody wants to live in Oklahoma, so sorry, Oklahoma people.
Out.
That one was out too. So kind of the obvious ones were like put on the list to like down select to. But the other big criteria for us, like going in just to like at the state level, was what's the weather like? What are the finances like in terms of like when you're in retirement or you're drawing income? How is that going to, you know, look long term for when you start pulling out money in a 401k and trying to live off of what you've saved your entire life for? And then something really important to us was a view. So like when you're old, what do you want to do? You want to have a cocktail and go out and look over the view and, you know, think about your life and, you know, whatever, smoke a cigar, smoke whatever you might want to, because, you know, that'll probably be legal by then, and, you know, enjoy like a fireplace. So for us, it was water or mountains. And we weren't sold on either one of those. We wanted either like a water view or like an amazing mountain view. Mm-hmm. So we had to start looking at that criteria too. Some states are completely flat and dry. So we knew those were going to be ruled out. And then again, like some states we were just ruling out because we just didn't like them. So once we did that, it really came down to, you know, some states that were in the list. So we're going to put those up now. And this is kind of from left to right where we went to with our criteria, just to down select. Like Alaska was off because it was like extremely cold. I don't like the heat. So like if you're really humid, like sorry Alabama, you're out. Like it's too hot, too humid for me.
You cannot handle it.
I can't handle it. I don't want to retire to that. That doesn't seem great for me. So then what did we do from here? We came up with criteria to apply against all of the states that were basically left over from there. So we came up with 17 criteria, and these are specific to us, but it helped us really down select to get to those cities and areas of the country that we wanted to start looking at. So the first one was fine dining. We're not like food snobs, but if the only option is to go to like Applebee's or Chili's on a date night, that's not really ideal for us. So we want like 30 plus food spots. So we use data from like Yelp, from, you know, TripAdvisor even, and found that if there's fine dining, that's a yes or no. And then we could actually get like a good meal in those cities or in that surrounding area. Because when you're retired, what else do you have to do but really focus on food? And then it came into the financial aspect. So you got to think of things like where are the income tax rates, because you're going to be drawing from pension, or you may even retire early from there or to there. Where are the property tax rates by 100,000, because that's how property taxes are calculated. And then what is the sales tax rate? Because sales tax matters. Every dollar you spend, you're going to be paying sales tax on. So when you're retired, really you're just buying things at that point. Food, water, shelter, right? So what are the tax rates and what's that implication on a per year basis? So that's like the money aspect of how we looked at things. The other items were, is there water? So is there like a lake? Is there ocean? Is there a river that's large enough to have a water view? Don't have to necessarily be on the water. That didn't matter to us as much, but we want to look out across and see the scenery of water.
I just want something pretty to look at. I want it to be natural. I want it to not have noise pollution. I don't want to hear traffic at night. Those are priorities for me.
And the other was mountain view. Like I've been to Colorado a bunch, like looking out into the mountains during the daytime and seeing snow-capped mountains. That's pretty awesome. So that was also part of the criteria, but it could be an either or. We just wanted a view. Then we started looking at weather type things, like what's the average snowfall per year? What are the winter temperatures, the lows, the summer temperature highs? There you can find what the livable amount of weeks are per year, and we're going to put a link to where you can look that up. Probably like right here, and then I'll have it right here. How many minutes away is a hospital? I think that's a very underappreciated thing. There's like the golden hour or something like that to get to a hospital, Randy.
And it depends. And I went and I talked to a couple of friends who have training in paramedics and EMT and stuff like that. And some of the things that I assumed, like, oh, if you can get to the hospital within 30 minutes, you're golden. And they had more expertise. They were like, well, it depends on the condition, actually. Like, there's certain things that are common conditions in old age where if you don't get to them within 10 minutes, then there's no point. So it depends on access of emergency services to your home, as well as how far away a hospital is, and then how well the hospital performs in those areas. So we kind of settled with, if the hospitals are well rated, if they can handle the normal conditions that affect people at that age, and if they're within 30 minutes and emergency services can reach us, we're happy.
So that's something in older age you got to think about. You're going to go to the hospital more. You're going to have more doctor's appointments. Is there an apparatus there to support that long term? Then there's another calculation you can find. It's how many sunny days are there per year, because everybody talks about Seattle being gloomy and raining every day. Well, you're not going to experience the outdoors. You're not going to be sitting outside. You're not going to get to enjoy like your land if it's not sunny or if you don't have good weather. The other number that is really important is the comfort index. We didn't even know this existed, but apparently the comfort index is a calculation of how many days per year are agreeable to the general population. So within like a certain temperature, days of sunlight, humidity, all of these things go into what are known as the comfort index. So you can find a comfort index for every city in America that you can just look up, which was really an important scoring criteria to find out. Then it comes down to price. So what's the price of the property that you're going to look into? How much acreage are you going to get? And then figuring out what that price per acre is. You know, acreage divided by a total price per acre.
And figuring out what you're willing to pay for it.
Yeah, so that's really important. Like acreage in Montana is going to be cheaper than acreage in New York, or it's going to be cheaper than in California. But are you willing to live there based off of the other criteria within the data that you're pulling? And then the last one that we looked into was, what's the closest city with a population of over 5,000? 5,000 seems like a really small number, but you generally don't have a city that's below that. 5,000 people, you're going to get more of a larger market. You're not going to have some podunk town like you would think, like Wild West time frame, where they just have a saloon and a brothel, and you know that's all you got going. Maybe a jail and a guy with a six shooter. 5,000 seem to be the number of there are things to do in the local area.
We can find a coffee shop.
Yeah, that was really important too. Like coffee shops, daily things to do, good restaurants, a view, all of that calculated together. So we took that data and then we applied it to all of the states of America. And what we ended up coming up with is there's about 11 states in America that we would actually want to live off of based off of those index numbers. So those states were Michigan, Idaho, New York, Maine, New Hampshire, California, Oregon, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Washington. So that's still 11 states. We got from 51 to 11, and then we need to get down a little smaller than that because we can't go to all these places across America
in a
pandemic and over time to like figure this out. So then we started looking for bare land prices, like what's actually available, knowing that it's only a snapshot in time. But this is before the pandemic struck, so you know, buying land and getting away from the urban lifestyle, that wasn't a thing. So there was like a large amount of land available in the United States at the time. nobody had just rushed to the countryside.
The rush to leave the cities was just about to start. We were like 2 months in advance. I think we got very lucky.
So we had 11 states, and based off of the price per acre in the United States, we actually got it down to 7 from there. So Michigan, Idaho, New York, California, New Hampshire, Washington, and Maine. And what really surprised me is California made that list, because everybody says California is so expensive. It is, except for when you get up like north area, like towards Oregon, where it's actually cheaper, and the tax bases are different. Like everybody says California had crazy taxes. We actually didn't find that as we applied it. Sales tax was high, but like income tax wasn't. In certain areas, the property tax wasn't. So I think we have a lot of misconceptions about some states and some cities. But when you apply the data doesn't lie. The numbers are what they are. So once we applied that, we had 7 states left, and we started looking using Zillow, Redfin, what else?
Realtor.com.
Realtor.com, yeah.
Some Bearland ranching magazines, things like that.
Anything online that we could find to look for property. So knowing that we wanted between 5 and 20 acres after having gone to Michigan to see what 5 and 20 felt like, we realized that as long as it felt secluded to us, it didn't really matter if it was 5 or 20. We're not going to use 20 acres of land.
Yeah, we're not looking to work the land. What I had in mind when I was looking for like 20, 40, 60 acres was that feeling of seclusion in nature. And then in Michigan, I think we realized you can feel pretty secluded depending on what your topography is like, if you have trees, how close your neighbors are, whether it's flat land. So there's places you can feel real secluded on 5 acres.
So we got to 7 states. We applied what acreage was available. And it actually really down selected quite a bit. So each of the 7 states had only a couple of cities to it. And this is where it kind of gets hard. You have to do more research on the city and the area. So in Michigan, it was narrowed down to Keewatin and Elk Lake. For Idaho, it was leveraged down to Sagal, Sandpoint, and Bayview. For Washington, it was 9 Mile Falls. For California, it was Temecula and Lakehead. And for New York, it was Lake George. So that's where we started. It was, let's get a list of all of these states and then start looking through them. We'd already been to Michigan, so we knew what that was and what was available there. We knew what the view would be like. We knew what price per acre. We knew kind of what it would be like to live there. So we crossed Michigan off our list on let's go look at it. It was kind of our starting point, and we could compare it. Because at that point, it's like looking at a new house. If you compare it to the last one you saw, you know which one's better once you do the eyeball test and start looking. So next up on our visiting location was Idaho. And in the next video, we're going to talk about our trip to Idaho, what it was like, what we learned, kind of what came of that trip, which was surprising to us, and then what we learned about the process of buying land, of what our realtor had told us when we met with him out there, and then what to look out for when we were actually looking for and at properties. Since, like we've discussed before, we didn't have any experience in this. We didn't know what to look for. But you got to learn real quick. And that's what we did. And luckily we had a really good guy out in Idaho showing us property, explaining these things to us, and telling us why when you're looking at property online, it doesn't translate to, oh, that's a good property to buy. Because of things like snowfall on one side of a lake is 40 inches higher than the other side.
And they fudge their numbers a lot too. Like one will say, oh, it's only 20 minutes from the city center. But that's like, if you're going 100 miles per hour and there's no traffic on an abnormally clear day, like that doesn't really mean 20 minutes.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that we learned going into this is that realtor photos suck. Especially we noticed in Idaho and Michigan is that they took really bad photos. They're not using drones. They're kind of lying in some of the pictures to say, look at this great view. Well, they're taken from like a really high vantage point. That's not going to be the view from your house.
You won't see that.
So you got to be really careful. You also don't want to rule out things because they're bad photos. You want to have the data like push you in the direction of looking at the land and then not judge a book by its cover. Because you take down some trees and you have an amazing view. Yeah. You go 20 feet in the air and you have an amazing view, but not 7 feet in the air. So those are the things that aren't going to be shown necessarily in some of these properties. Because when you're looking at bare land, it gets real boring. It's a bunch of trees and trails and maybe a water view, maybe a mountain view, and then, looking at a good ficus tree or maybe like some maples, and you're like, okay, what is this thing?
A ficus?
I don't know what a ficus is. But then, other things like is there water, is there sewage, is there power? All those things we'll talk about later, and confirming that and look at costs and what those actually mean when you go to buy a property, and all of that, because it's got to be factored into what your package is going to be when you offer it. Because you got to put it in, because you got to get water, you got to flush your toilet, and then you got to power your electronics, or else you're in the caveman days. So next episode is our trip to Idaho, and we look forward to telling you guys all about it and what we've learned, and hopefully pass on some things to you.
We'll put links to all the websites we use to get this information in the description box.
All right, guys. Thanks. Oh boy, that's going in the outtakes too.